Hey guys, welcome back to another video and happy Saturday. I know that I usually do not release videos on Saturdays, but I really had to talk about what I'm going to talk about. Last week was pretty much a mess for us, and yesterday was especially stressful. We had 3 loads we had to book, one for a reefer in Dallas, another one for a flatbed in Midland, Texas, which is a horrific market, and one for a flatbed near Castaic, California. Needless to say, with the market situation, only one of our trucks ended up getting a load for the weekend. And that load was honestly, it was a stroke of luck. But yesterday's booking session did give me some more perspective on something that I already more or less knew. Now, a small announcement, you all can see this already. There's a little ticker going here. And this is because I continuously get the same questions. What's your email? How can I reach you? Do you still have courses? Where do I find them? So all the information and announcements are going to be in this ticker. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I teach about the trucking industry with a heavy focus on the spot market as well as freight market analysis. And sometimes I make videos like this where I share my own personal experience and vent. So if this is a topic that interests you, feel free to subscribe down below. Anyway, Fridays are becoming a nightmare because carriers and drivers and dispatchers are panicking, hoping that they're not going to lose the weekend, and the brokers and shippers are using that to their advantage and just pushing those rates down. I mean, it's crazy. So let's chat about it. Ready? Let's go. So 2 observations I made yesterday. Number 1, the moment a load is posted, regardless for what equipment or what market, the moment a load is posted, even if it's for a crap rate, it gets taken down right away because it gets covered within seconds. And this is something that I'm noticing is happening more and more on Fridays. Number 2, in certain market areas, when the load is posted and you try to call the broker, 80% of brokers will either not pick up the phone, or there will be a line busy tone, or it will say that just the number is not available. It's the weirdest thing. Now, let me tell you the story that happened to me yesterday, which prompted me to do this video. One of the brokers had an email option. So I emailed them about a load that was going from Dallas, Texas. This was for the reefer. Dallas, Texas to City of Industry, California. These were the details. Frozen veggies, -10 degrees, 42,000 pounds, 1,480 miles with the small deadhead that we would have to do. And what is the rate? $1,400. My friends, that is 97 cents per mile for a load that is pretty much at capacity. It's not a partial 42,000 pounds. It's -10, so it's frozen. The reefer has to run at -10 in disgusting heat, right? And the diesel prices are climbing. So now I'm going to read you the exchange we've had. My first response to this was, you're really paying 94 cents per mile for a frozen load? Sorry guys, I thought I said 97 before. It's actually 94 cents per mile. So I asked him, are you seriously doing this? His response was, I'm sorry, this is just what people are covering it for. It's a spot load. I'm not able to make the rates for the market. It's supply and demand. I decided, you know what, this is a great opportunity to educate someone because I like teaching people. Yesterday, actually, I was trying to teach a broker on the phone who was also lowballing me. He just hung up. He's like, I'm not doing this. I was trying to explain to him that you understand, you're going to lose so many carriers. Yeah, they don't want to hear lectures. But here, it was email. So this is what I said, and I'm going to give you the gist. But basically what I said is that those people who are taking these cheap rates are going to go out of business, and that capacity will start getting purged because with the increasing diesel prices, there's no way anyone can stay in business. But I also told him that as capacity gets purged, once there is a turn in the market, carriers will simply refuse to haul loads for companies that offered these types of rates. As in, we will remember. Now, his response back, and I'm grateful he did reply back, but this is something that I was, of course, aware of, but it does give some perspective. He said the following: The rates are terrible for our business, but the fact of the matter is that other competitors, brokers, continue to pursue our customers and undercut rates. To be honest, we probably won't even win this load. It's a spot load. Now, we all love to hate on brokers, right? We all try to blame them for the whole problem that currently exists in the freight market. And we do have a reason for such sentiment, but honestly, it's not just brokers. Many people, especially in the comment section down below, and just people in general, will tell you, go get direct shippers to actually make more money. And the logic is absolutely sound. If you go to a direct shipper, you're cutting out that middleman who takes off the top of each load. So of course, you are going to make more money. But let's not kid ourselves. Shippers are not knights in shining armor who are there to save you, right? They aren't paying much either. So we have a few problems to consider. Number one, we have the shipper who is trying to cut their costs. And the reason is because they're not making as much money. They're not getting that many orders. So the easiest way to cut costs is to cut costs of transportation. Given the overcapacity in the market, it's really not hard to do. The second problem is that shippers work with multiple brokers at once. Not all shippers, but a lot of them work with multiple brokerage companies at once, and they end up awarding the load to the broker who comes in with the cheapest rate. The third issue is that brokers have a ton of competition right now as well. And just like this broker from Dallas said, there are other brokers going after one customer and undercutting each other. So if one broker says, hey, I can get this moved for $2,500, and then another one says, well, I can do it for $2,000, and a third says I can do it for $1,500, and so on and so forth, until the shipper chooses the one that offers the lowest price, because the shipper wants to save money as well. And the worst part is, off of that $1,500 that the broker just won the bid for, they're going to take another percentage into their pocket because they're not going to work for free. But where does all of this stem from, right? The rates, the market, all of this mess we find ourselves in. What is the underlying disease that is causing all of these symptoms? Now, we can talk about capacity, supply and demand. We can look at outbound tender rejection rates, outbound volumes. We can look at the changes. We can try to predict the best markets to go to in order to grab relatively better rates, right? And that is a great way to try and stay afloat in a tough situation. However, this is the same thing as putting a Band-Aid on an open, blood-gushing wound. It will slow down the blood loss, but won't do much to actually help the wound heal. We need sutures. In our case, in order to remedy the underlying problem, not the symptoms of the problem, but the underlying problem, we need to change the way we think. And by we, I mean dispatchers, carriers, owner-operators, drivers. Some people believe that the government should step in, set the rates, cap the brokers. But I think if enough of us come together, we can change the situation ourselves. And if enough carriers decide that there is a limit to what they will take, for example, $2.50 per mile is the bare minimum with Deadhead, is the bare minimum that carriers will start taking, right? Any lower than that, they are not taking that load. What will happen if more and more of us start doing that? Well, first of all, just like I said in Monday's video, capacity stops mattering, right? If loads are not moving, that means that shippers are now paying brokers enough so brokers can pay carriers a minimum of $2.50 per mile. Now, the overcapacity in the market only means that there would be certain trucks that would be left without a load, but there are certain trucks left without a load anyway in today's market. Now, the other question is, can't shippers then just find contract carriers and kind of lock them into a more manageable rate for the shipper? Because those crazy spot carriers are not budging on the price. Won't that make the spot market disappear completely? Well, no, it won't, because contract rates are also known as paper rates because they don't mean anything, right? They're not binding like a regular contract is. So carriers can refuse from those rates. So let's say that most spot carriers, or a good amount of spot carriers, decide that $2.50 per mile with deadhead is what they need minimum in order to move the load. And the shippers decide, you know what, we are going to lock contract carriers in at $2.20 per mile. Those contract carriers will start rejecting contract loads for a better alternative on the spot market, which is what happened in 2021, right? There were so many good loads on the spot market that contract carriers were rejecting. Rejections were over 25%. And if that were to happen, that means more volume starts rushing into the spot market, and guess what happens? It just becomes a snowball effect to the carrier's advantage. Now, of course, we can just all sit here patiently waiting for the market to change, for either volumes to increase or for capacity to decrease. But the question is, when will this happen? And the more important question is, how many of us are still going to be in business by the time the market actually turns? So a question for all of you and for myself as well, food for thought. Would you rather be a bystander waiting for the market to turn someday? Or instead of passively waiting for something or someone to pull us out of a crap situation, would you rather actually do something about it? Now, I know that this channel has over 60,000 community members right now, and I'm very well aware of the fact that not all of us are actively in the trucking industry. But let me ask you a question. What do you think would happen if even 20 or 30,000 of us decided, you know what, starting on Monday, I am saying no to any load that pays less than $2.50 per mile? I think that while it would not have an effect on the market as a whole, it would definitely make a dent. The problem we have currently is distrust, right? We don't trust that people will do as they say. And I understand that. I have distrust of carriers that are in the same market that my trucks are in, right? I know that I can say no to cheap freight all day long, but it's not going to matter because there are going to be 250 other carriers who are going to be fighting for that load. And at the end of the day, it just means that my trucks are empty, just like 2 of my trucks are currently empty for the weekend. We lost 3 days. Like I said, we all love to hate on brokers, but the reality is it's not just brokers, it's shippers as well. Because of the amount of competition that is happening currently among brokers, brokers cannot quote higher rates because they simply know they will lose the load to their competition, and there's a ton of it. Just like on our side, we are competing with other carriers who are taking cheap freight. Are there those brokers that get $3-4 per mile and then take $2 per mile into their pocket? Yeah, there are plenty of those. So saying no to cheap freight actually corrects the situation with those quote unquote bad brokers, right? Because now if more and more carriers agree that, let's say, $2.50 per mile is the minimum, right? Then those bad brokers that actually get paid well by the shipper and just pocket a ton, they will not be able to do that anymore, simply because no carrier is going to move their load. So these bad brokers will have to decide, either they try to pocket a ton and lose their customer, or they start paying up. Now let's briefly talk about Yellow, the less than truckload carrier that went bankrupt, because this is a great example of what we could achieve if we were to say no to cheap rates. Yellow was one of the worst rated carriers out there, but shippers stuck with them because they were also the cheapest carrier out there. Now, of course, Yellow is bankrupt, so we have a ton of other giants, other less than truckload giants starting to soak up that capacity, but not without price increases. So let me read this to you. According to the DAT Chief of Analytics, Ken Adamo, the price difference could be a 20 to 25% price per pound increase. Altogether, the price increases would be 7 to 10% higher. And he continues, if you decided late last week as a shipper to send ArcBest, Old Dominion, XPO, and FedEx your data to get some rates back, probably by late this week, you're going to be fully processing the sticker shock of how much of a price increase you're going to have to take over what Yellow was charging you. So what do you think will happen? Are shippers going to just sit on their loads, cross their arms, pout and say, no, I'm not going to pay? They have to move the load, so they will pay what they need to pay in order to get it done. Why can't we do the same thing on the spot market by simply setting our own rates? So honestly, I know that this video covers the same exact topic as it did last week, but I made this video out of desperation. I always say that my two businesses, my two companies, they're like my babies, right? Especially my original company, it's like my firstborn child. And I'm sure a lot of business owners would say they feel the same way about their own business. So tell me something. Would you feed your hungry child poison just for the sake of curbing their hunger? Because every time you take those dollar per mile loads, you're feeding your company poison that is going to eventually kill it. And again, just like I said in my last video, I understand that our costs per mile differ, right? Everyone has their own cost per mile and it's unique to every single company. However, we are currently in an unpredictable environment because we have diesel prices that are going up, we have inflation, we have the consumer price index, we have the cost of labor. All of those things are increasing and therefore increasing any carrier's cost per mile. And those of you who are okay with taking $1 per mile rates because you're making a profit right now, well, what you're doing is you are driving the market down at the moment. But your cost per mile at the same time is increasing. And eventually there is going to come that point where, whoops, you're not making enough money anymore. You're losing money. Anyway, guys, I have a really hard time making videos like this. I don't know what it is. I think it's, first of all, it's reiterating the same thing over and over again. But this has been really, really bothering me for the past week and a half because these rates, I mean, they're crazy. They're crazy rates. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I'll see you in the next video.